Now I got it. Hold on.
I just ordered some tacos too. I had one real quick. That's why I was late. The other one's sitting.
Oh, I see that.
You ordered 2 tacos?
Yeah. I usually just order 2. These guys, they make little fat ones. And then I'll just have like a snack after, so fruit or something.
Is 2 your sweet spot for tacos? Like you don't go for 3 ever?
3 is the standard, I think.
That's my standard is 3.
Yeah. I started switching it up to 2. I don't know why. But now I'm pretty good with 2.
Cost effective, that's why.
It is cost effective. I think these are $3.50 a taco.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That 2 tacos at like $6 versus 3 at close to 10 that's a huge difference right there.
Yeah, I'd do 3 for $9. 3 for $9 is dope deal. I'll take that. But yeah, taco.
But you eat 2 and you're not in the back of your head you're always thinking like, damn, I should have just pulled out the extra one. Let me just eat some like chocolate chip cookies to finish myself off.
Not chocolate chip cookies. That's a bad recipe. Maybe something healthier. But these tacos, they're a little bit on the chubby side. So 2 of them, you're okay. What was happening is I kept ordering 3, and then like after the 3rd one, I would just feel like I can't do anything now, like so full that I started getting just the 2.
Now, does the day of the week...
But it's
Does the day of the week have anything to do with you ordering the tacos today?
Taco Tuesday.
No, it's actually my wife is slammed. I'm tired, and I ordered tacos. But when I did get them, I surprised my wife and I yelled out Taco Tuesday. My dog.
So 2 leaves you feeling okay, but does it leave you feeling satisfied?
You know what? Satisfied is probably 2.5, to be honest. Because yeah, I only had 1 right now just to hold me over the recording. If I had 2, I would probably be like down for a 3rd. But I'm not craving the 3rd, if that makes sense. Because I know if I had 3, I'd be like, I'm done.
See, the dilemma with ordering or having like Mexican food and tacos with me is always like, well, I could just order 1 burrito and that's it, you know? Like,
Yeah.
You're never going to have more than 1 burrito.
Nah.
But with tacos, it's always between 2 and 3. You order 2, you save money, but then you kind of feel like, damn, I could fit 1 more in. And there's no 2.5 unless you split the 3rd one with somebody, but that never happens.
Nah, you can't split a taco either. Yeah, it's tough. If the place sells those little tacos, you know which ones I'm talking about? They're usually mostly in restaurants, though. They're just like shrunken tacos. But this is like a pretty decent Mexican spot, so they're fat boys. But
are you eating the corn crunchy tortillas, or you're eating like the soft tortilla
these are soft.
tacos?
I don't really do the crunchy tortillas. I know they're good. They're good at Taco Bell. But when I order them at like a local Mexican spot or restaurant, I don't even really see them at the menu that much.
You got a little bit fatter ones with them when they're soft.
Oh yeah, because you can stuff them a little bit. But there's a new Taco Bell that opened up down the street, and we tried it.
Oh damn! Right down the street. That's dangerous.
Yeah, down the street. It's good. Taco Bell's good, man. People sleep on it.
That's too close to be safe. Having a Taco Bell down the street that's dangerous. Because you're gonna see it every day, you know.
You see it every day, yeah.
And every time you see a Taco Bell, it makes you think about it. So.
You hear the bell.
Bong!
Yeah.
Or you hear the Chihuahua that was popular back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah, Taco Bell is good. When I do get Taco Bell, I just keep it simple. I just get like the tacos, the basic tacos, a little bit of hot sauce, crunchy. I do get the crunchy at Taco Bell because when you bite into them, it's so satisfying.
See, I'm the opposite. I can't do regular at Taco Bell. If I do regular stuff, I'd prefer to just go to like an actual Mexican restaurant for that. So when I do Taco Bell, I have to go for like their special items, like their chalupas or their Crunch Wrap Supreme and that type of stuff.
Okay.
Just because it's like, you know, you're not going to get that anywhere else.
You definitely not.
Scott, when's the last time you had Taco Bell?
College.
Really?
Yes, college.
I I wasn't a big fan of Taco Bell until recently. I'm still not a big fan, but I had like boycotted it for years just because of stomach issues I'd have with
If
it.
you
But
watch if
I
you
think
watch the
I've
YouTube videos that the employees who work at Taco Bell, you'll then realize why you have the stomach issues by watching it.
Yeah, but you can't do that to yourself, Scott, and that goes for any restaurant. You can't
You
watch
know
those
what? The
videos.
restaurants I go to, they don't have employees that make videos. They
Exactly.
don't.
I used to not eat it because of that, but I gave them a second shot like a year ago, and in the past year I've had Taco Bell maybe like 4 or 5 times. So
Well, they had like salmonella breakouts
Oh,
for
there
a
you
while,
go.
right? Like,
nah, was that them?
yeah, it was like the lettuce they were
Sure, that
using.
wasn't Chipotle.
Yes, they had
No.
well,
Was
they
it?
had an issue with I think their
Yeah, that
well,
was
didn't they have an
Chipotle.
issue with their chicken? I think it
don't
had.
know.
I think
Chipotle?
They had
that
a
was
huge issue that cost them like
that
tons
was
of
a
PR
supply. That was
and like
I think an issue with the supplier. It wasn't an issue in the individual restaurants, but when they were delivering the product, the ingredients, then that of course an issue, and they had to shut down the restaurants. And like,
the thing with Taco Bell you're thinking of is there was like a controversy over the type of meat they were using for their ground beef, that it was like fake meat. It wasn't even like
same thing with
100%.
That
That
was
was
Subway.
Subway. Subway using fake shrimp. Or something.
No, that was Taco Bell also.
Okay, yeah.
100% that was Taco Bell also.
I think Taco Bell also may have had. Correct me if I'm wrong, but was it E. coli? Is that a thing? I know it's a thing, but is that like a food thing?
I don't
Yes,
remember
it
them
could be.
having health or sanitary issues. I just remember the controversy of being.
but when
They had to actually change
Yes.
their ingredient, and then they like came out and advertised that it's like 100% real meat.
Real
But
beef.
when was last time? When was
Yeah,
last time you went to Wendy's? Because did you hear about their idea of doing price surging, like Uber and Lyft? That's the big
Yeah.
headline today.
So how would that work exactly? Like if you go there during lunchtime?
I
pay
guess
more?
so, but I don't think anyone was that desperate to get to a Taco Bell, get to a Wendy's, and pay more for the food. I think people more go for the price than they go for. Ooh, let's go and. I don't know. Also, if it's you're paying more because you're doing delivery, or you pay more based on the
Yeah.
demand at that location, physically going there.
That's
I-
wild.
I
I
think
can't
that's what it
I
is.
can't get behind price surge for food. Like people get hungry at different times.
I understand if you.
Yeah.
I get
That's
if you go to a
unacceptable.
fancy restaurant and you're going on New Year's or on a holiday and you pay more, but not when you're going.
Why is that? Who goes
What?
to? Wait, why is that okay?
There shouldn't be a premium label pricing on food.
I know, but
anyways.
yes,
Like it is what it is. It costs what it costs.
yes.
We already got enough.
But if you're
to deal
going,
with whatever.
Yeah, but restaurants do that.
well, they do that, but they'll do that for Thanksgiving, or they'll do it for like a holiday.
Valentine's Day is
Right, but they're not going to
Valentine's
do
Day
it
is
for like, by the way, since there's a lot of people that want the food at 2 p.m., we're going to increase the price 20% for no reason and have it be like a steady flow like the stock market. But
Yeah, I'm just curious if you go there at like 4 o'clock, do you get like a 50% discount? Because it's just slow.
you'll never get a discount. It only gets, they're not going to lower the price. They're only going to raise the price from the regular prices.
Okay. I haven't been to Wendy's in a long time.
Neither
so
neither
a long
am I.
time.
Hey, got all the local stations talk about them. But
But I go to Mickey D's once in a while because there's a one around the corner too.
you live in a dangerous area.
No, yeah, food wise, yeah,
Yes.
but you know why? Because I live off of Broadway,
Ah,
and
okay.
so within a few
Of
blocks,
course.
kind of.
Right.
That McDonald's has been there forever. It's a staple. But
Is
anyway.
is
I
that the one
get,
on 50th?
No. I live
Oh,
uptown.
okay.
No, not near
Yeah,
my
okay.
work. Near where I live. But anyway, McDonald's is expensive, man. I go there just for like me. My wife always just gets like chicken nuggets, and then I'll get like the Big Mac and fries. But you're paying like 16, 18.
That's
you're coming in at close.
that's
to
the
20
New
bucks
York
for
City
chicken
McDonald's
McDonald's
prices, I
nowadays.
guess. That's New York City.
What do you got over there, Scott?
I don't know. I have not walked in one in quite a while, but
I'll do that. Walk in one or just look
I'll
online.
look online.
Did
There's no.
yeah?
I
dollar
guess
price-
there's not that much available on that dollar menu anymore.
they don't do that dollar.
They
menu.
don't. It's
No.
now
That's
Yeah,
a
they
back
got
in the
the
day.
$15 menu. It's the come for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
$15 menu. Instead of getting something for $30, you'll get it for $15.
Yep.
And hopefully you won't get sick
It's
when you
pricey,
finish eating
man.
it.
I'll tell you, a McDonald's burger is still one of the best burgers you can have. It's
I will let you say that.
no, come on, guys.
All right, guys. Well, every industry is in upheaval at the moment with everything going on. What do you guys think about this Sora AI technology from OpenAI? It's made the rounds this week, specifically with an interview coming out from Tyler Perry. I think a few outlets got in touch with him, but the ones I looked up was the article from Variety, and he actually gave a sit-down interview with a Hollywood Reporter where he actually answered questions with them back and forth. But this thing looks crazy, guys. What are your thoughts? What are your opinions? Do you guys agree with what Tyler's saying? Quick background. Tyler Perry came out last week saying that he's putting an indefinite halt to his $800 million expansion to his production studio. He was planning on adding 12 sound stages to
Damn.
his whopping 330-acre property.
Is this in Atlanta?
I'm not sure where it is actually. I didn't get that one from any of the articles. I just assumed off the top of my head it was in LA, but you're right, it might be in Atlanta. That's a big hub for things nowadays. But he's indefinitely put it on hold. He's quoted as saying his mind was blown
His studio is low.
after seeing the capabilities, and the capabilities he's referring to is sort of a video that OpenAI made public as of right now. Is 10 days ago. It has 1.6 million views on YouTube, and it's just like a 10-minute video just showcasing their current capabilities. This thing isn't even out yet. This is like them wanting to get feedback on it right now with what it can do, and like this isn't the finished product, guys. I don't know what the hell it's gonna be, but this thing looks crazy.
So Tyler Perry studio is in Atlanta, but yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I'm surprised that he needs to expand his studio because he already has quite a large facility. Yeah, I guess it depends on how much demand there is to create so much, film and TV shows all simultaneously, because there's so much saturation of content. It's just a matter of if he already has deals already in place, or he's hoping to produce more.
Well, he just
I think you got lost on the headline there, Scott. He basically I'm sorry, Pedro, go ahead.
No, one of the articles referenced that he recently signed a deal with Netflix to bring like his movies and productions on there. So he's getting work, and he's gonna be getting work. So that probably had to do with it. But he mentioned that it's been in the works for a while now. He's been planning on expanding. So it's not like something that he just came up with and then decided not to.
Yeah, so basically he put the expansion on pause after seeing OpenAI's video creations. Yeah, I might do the same. I think it's a little early. The quote here is jobs are going to be lost. But didn't he just kill jobs by not opening the studio? In a way?
Yeah, he mentioned that he actually feels bad for like the sort of like the carpenters and
all the contractors and
the
everything.
unions and the contractors that he was gonna have, and these are just people that they're not even in the film industry. They're just people that were gonna like build sets and like build his set and stuff. This isn't even talking about like the motion artists or special effects artists that
are gonna
have.
Yeah. So the OpenAI text to video model is it's really impressive. It still feels like AI to me. But again, this is only, I think it's a closed beta. I'm not sure if it's open or closed, but he certainly has access to it, and he can see firsthand what it can do. I'm sure it's immensely impressive. So I'm on Twitter I'm on X every day, and I think it was Sunday night of last week when Sam Altman, who's the CEO of OpenAI, when he started asking people to send him prompts for videos, and then he just started dropping these videos on Twitter like live, and everybody went nuts. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, people should be worried to some degree. AI is gonna, take jobs away for sure. I don't know how it's gonna impact film industry. First, it's gonna be studios are gonna want to use it to save money, right? Create like backgrounds, create scenes. You can do an entire like Nat Geo documentary on this thing with just prompts. You can create anything you want in a way. I don't know what it means for writers and actors. I think there should be some protections in place, and I think that they are, but those are under immense threat right now after this thing just went live.
From the animations that were shown, there's not that much movement. There's a scene that's established, and there's some movement, but it's still a whole other part to perfect is the movement of the mouth.
I don't think you're watching the right video, Scott. This thing is
no, I know.
Insane.
I did see it. That it does look fairly realistic, but
it's many different videos that were posted, and they're still being dropped today on Twitter.
Yeah, check out the 10-minute YouTube video on the link, Scott. If you skip through it, you'll see different scenes. I think what's most impressive to me right now is that it's a mix of like realistic stuff, like tourists walking around famous city versus like, like a Pixar like bootleg of like a little creature, just like a little squirrel like surfing and stuff. So they're doing it's capable of things that are like realistic shots and things that are like CG shots. Did you guys have one in particular that really like blew your mind?
Yeah, and the reason I bring up, so the link you shared, this is a collection of all the videos they dropped on Twitter. I hadn't seen all of them, but I seen the puppies one is insane. But the one that really blew me away was a close-up shot of an ant following like a line of ants through the jungle. And it's like a shot that you would see on a National Geographic documentary. It blew me away. The Spaceman one is probably the one that's making its rounds on Twitter a lot. It's pretty cool.
I think the most impressive one is seeing the woman in bed with the cat. The way the way the light sits on it, and then that's the realism. I think to start off with, I think it's certainly gonna make Pixar and Disney go, why are we spending all this time animating when in a matter of a few seconds or whatever amount of time it takes, it renders out the scene, and they can come out with movies really quickly and make it look realistic.
Yeah.
So just so I'm understanding correctly, guys, these, like for example, the woman with the cat in the bed, that's not a real person, right?
No. This isn't.
See,
every video is
crazy.
Entirely AI generated. Everything in the video is generated.
The cat puts its palm on her nose, and like her nose wrinkles up.
Yeah, and then these also have the prompts.
So the whole thing.
But
yeah, so they show the prompts and then it shows you the result.
If you pause a lot of these videos, you will see tons of imperfections all over the place. Mm-hmm. So at first glance, they look amazing, and they are. But again, in 2 weeks, a lot of these imperfections are going to start to go away. Just like the weird hands that used to happen with the AI photos, people with like 8 fingers and all this stuff. So this is extremely impressive.
And it's not even out yet, guys. This is the crazy part, that whatever imperfections you may even spot that are hard to spot, that's all going to be fixed.
Yeah.
I think one I was most impressed with was the snowy scene in Tokyo with people walking by the open air market. That was crazy because it was just like there's like dozens of people in the shot and they're all different. It's not like it's the same person multiplied a million times. It's just Everyone's different. They're all wearing different layers, different jackets, different colored clothes, and they're walking like towards the camera and crossing the camera like in all different directions like that.
Yeah, it looks pretty dope.
If you told me that was stock footage from a stock footage side, I'd believe it.
Yeah, it'll pass. And I think OpenAI already has a partnership with Getty, I believe, because I think those are the first. That would be one of the first industries to kind of be wiped out because users can just generate their own B-roll. But there is some partnership with OpenAI, Getty Images. I don't know what the partnership entails, but people are just trying to hold on for dear life. A lot of these companies. I've even used it. Not this. Obviously, this I haven't been able to get my hands on this yet. But the other day I was shooting a video for a client, and there were some screens with a graphic in the back that he wanted out of frame, but the frame was really good, and I didn't want to change the frame, but I knew that if I bring a still of that into Photoshop, I can use AI
Get rid
to
of it.
basically get rid of those screens and put whatever I want there, and then import that into Premiere and edit the video and keep the same frame that I originally wanted. So it is stepping into video production little by little. If you're Disney or these bigger studios, I'm sure you're at the forefront of this technology, but it's certainly going to change cinema. We just don't really know how yet. Everyone is just concerned about authorship and actors, writers, animators, kind of what happens to those guys.
They also don't want to.
Well, I
They
think
also don't want to use
Go ahead.
open tools. They want to make sure that they're keeping the film industry, that they're using their own tools and not relying on an open, because when they do projects, they want to do it in their control and want to own everything and not using an outside, publicly accessible animation tool.
just real quick from the Tyler interview, he mentioned they asked him what in particular was shocking to him about his capabilities. And he's not like expressing about going all in and doing like an entire movie or entire scenes or anything like this. He just iterized or emphasized that he would no longer, from seeing the video, he's stating he would no longer have to travel to locations. If he wanted to do a scene in the snow in Colorado, he'll just write it in text, or he would be able to write it in text. If he wanted to write a scene on the moon, he could just put in the text prompt. So it sounds like he's not seeing it as like a complete replacement of things, but he's seeing it as like, instead of going location scouting and moving the set to a different location for shooting, like you could just do it on a green screen or something and put that over it.
Yeah, in a way, you can kind of see this, technology is moving much faster than anything before in terms of the visual effects industry, but you can see it as like a green screen when that was invented. And now the most recently, those studio that Disney, I think Disney was the first one to have, where it's just like a panoramic sort of virtual background. They shot a lot of Mandalorian on that. This is just like another evolution, but it feels like it's not only adding to the scene, it's just sort of, it's not erasing anything, but it's making a lot of the industry obsolete, potentially.
Yeah. And you're going to have your couple people that just go off the rails with it and just completely replace everything and just abuse the hell out of it.
Yeah. I did see, just like, again, I did see someone say that they wrote a 5-minute short film that won like best AI short film. So you're gonna start seeing things like that. Maybe you see at the Oscars or award shows like AI being integrated in one way or another. Best use of AI. I don't know, best AI character. Or, I'm not sure, but it's gonna sort of get into the industry in a more public way.
All right, guys. This weekend was also the season finale of True Detective. A lot of mixed results. A lot of disappointed people. That was last Sunday or this Sunday?
I think it was last Sunday.
Yeah. So yeah, within the week.
Yeah, yeah.
Within this past week.
Yeah, no, it took
Still-
me a while to catch up anyway.
Still current. I had to watch 2 episodes back to back. I was 2 episodes behind also. What do you guys think, man?
Scott,
Season finale. Scott, started off because you were the first one to finish it before anyone else, and you had your thoughts on
you
it.
said it was whack.
I don't.
Yeah, you kind of made up my mind going into it, so I was looking at little details after
Well,
your comments.
how did I
Go
make
ahead.
up your how did I make up your mind? Did I make up your mind to watch it or not to watch it?
No, you didn't. Just when I watched it, I'm like, when I was watching it, I was looking and like just looking to make myself disappointed.
And I know exactly the scene where that happened. But Scott, go ahead.
I truly don't even remember. You know what?
It was very forgettable, man. I'm not gonna lie. I got to dig up my past week's.
Yeah.
Memories.
The whole season, I guess you can't call it a series. The whole season, you know, it felt like it was going to be one way and it turned out to be a different way. Now,
Which way?
wound up being just that I just lost interest in it. I was disappointed. I didn't find out why what's her name was getting annoyed at the song. Did that ever get addressed?
Yeah, that got addressed. That got addressed like midway through.
I missed it.
They're hinting. The hint was that it brings up like painful memories of her child that she lost.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was on the surface as that they didn't really go into great detail in it.
I didn't catch it at first. I only learned that through
To watch.
explainer videos. So
okay.
it was hard to catch. It was hard to catch.
Yes.
But I like that. I don't like where shows put everything on a silver platter for you. You have to invest. So I have no problem with that.
I'm fine with investing.
But anyway,
I'm
sorry,
fine
Scott,
with
continue.
investing, but not making me have to do a whole thesis research project and look up YouTube videos. But thankfully, there are people that are really paying attention that will explain it. So that I would say it's like the cliff notes for TV shows.
I think anytime you're getting into, this is not new, number one, but anytime you're getting into a mystery series on television, whether it be season 1 of True Detective, whether it's Lost, whether it's X-Files, yeah, you're going to have to dig a little bit beneath the surface. And yes, you're going to have a lot of explainer videos on YouTube, but that's why people gravitate towards those shows, is because they're constantly chasing the next clue and they want to be part of the investigation with usually it's like some sort of law enforcement detective person. So I feel like you weren't prepared for that, Scott. You didn't know.
Scott,
you didn't know the show had homework.
Well, you know what?
Scott,
I'm already home, so I don't want work if I'm already home watching a show. The writers should put everything on a silver platter, make the show interesting and engaging, and don't make it feel like my eyes are going in 5 different directions to have to figure out what's going on. And then get grossed out. Get grossed out by the ice skating rink.
Okay. Good take, Scott. You're home and you don't want to do work, so homework isn't good for you. But I get a sense of what you're feeling.
Thank you for summing that up.
It's similar to how I felt after the finale, where I felt like the show started off really high up and then sort of declined episode by episode.
Exactly.
Leading to probably the last episode, which is probably in my opinion, probably the worst and most boring out of all 6 episodes of the season. So yeah, it started off on a high note. I think it kind of declined episode by episode. The second to last episode, I think, was really good. Or was it the third to last? The one where
they
had that crazy ending. The kid kills his father and all that.
That was second to last.
Yes.
Yeah, that was really good. That was really good stuff.
Yeah. I think my biggest gripe with this season finale is that they teased connections with season 1. They teased more of this like supernatural cult.
Well, it's not supernatural
underworld
cult.
worship
it's just the
type thing.
indigenous sort of supernatural element.
And I think they teased at it being very largely connected to the events of season 1. they even revealed that Colt's father was involved in this season in a flashback or whatever, and
Yeah, yeah.
that stuff led nowhere. There wasn't really a connection to season one. It was kind of like they teased it, they got you hyped about it, and they just didn't finish off with it. Instead it was like, whatever this thing is, it's causing like visions to happen to certain people, and that's it. Like, but what are you trying to tell me? Because that wasn't what we got from season one. From season one, we got that it was like this secret society cult that's been around for years, that this family's like a central figure of, that, it's involved with like, quote unquote, freaking like elements of satanic worship and stuff like that, and demon stuff. But, I thought they were going to link more to that, but didn't happen. So
Yeah,
that was my biggest gripe with it.
I I'm actually glad they didn't. So, maybe they didn't have to nod towards season one. I think the director saying she was sort of paying homage to the early work of the series, which that's fine because she's a huge fan and she can do that. I think if she were to go all in, it would just create a complete wormhole where then you would have to invest so much time in the show and story to dedicate it to tie everything back. So I'm glad it was just these subtle hints and not dragging us that way. That would have taken away from the show.
Why refer to it at all then? Why
I
even
think it's
try
just
to
'cause
link
she's a
this? Why
fan.
not just make it a standalone, keep it as a standalone
Yeah.
season, different story?
Yeah,
And
yeah. I
no
think it
links
still
to
is a standalone thing. Like you can, there's not enough to say, oh, this is part of season one or the characters. There's little hints, but I'm okay with that because it doesn't really weigh. There's no sort of question marks remaining. I agree that the series wasn't that good. I just didn't always understand character motivations. I didn't really understand the history or the relationship between the two main characters all the time. Like they had a shady history, or they clearly worked together. But when they talked about, their relationship revolved around killing that guy Wheeler. But I felt there should have been more exploration there. They were good on screen together. I think the ending, I was disappointed because I didn't buy it. My biggest disappointment was the cleaning ladies being the one that ultimately like had these guys killed. And I'm just like, wait, what is going on? Like, I'm not buying this for a second. I just thought that was very silly. And I thought, a lot of the series was about, culturally things are very hot. And so it's about women in positions of power, and then all the men in the show are pretty much enemies or allies, and pretty much all of them are enemies in the show. And I thought it was subtle up until that moment when you have all the cleaning ladies killing all the men who were not developed at all. I thought that was jumping the shark for me. I was like, I was still okay with everything, and I think everything makes sense, and those are stories that should be told from different perspectives. But I thought that moment when the cleaning ladies pulled out the shotguns and drove these guys into the middle of nowhere Arctic, I thought that was silly to me.
It was kind of a bait and switch at that point. Like, we've been led to believe the whole season up until that point that they died of mysterious supernatural causes, and then when they explained the reveal that they just got ran out of their research lab naked into the cold and froze, that was a letdown. I felt like that was a bait and switch.
It was. And I don't mind the bait and switch, but make it worth it. Because so the scientists killed, they were the ones that ended up killing Annie. But if you look at that scene, like, she finds their lab, she starts destroying some of their research, and then they all just become rabid and murder her. Like, that made no sense whatsoever. Like, not
No
one
sense.
guy tried to hold them back. Not one guy was like, wait a minute, we're murdering people now?
No sense. And also, her case was, they had assumed up until that point that it was the miners and the people working in the mine that you know, the stuff she was protesting was going to take their livelihood away.
Right.
It wasn't. It didn't have anything to do with
Which
the
I like.
researchers.
I like that
It
setup.
had to do with the actual mining company,
It was the pollution.
the miners, not the researchers. So why they again, you know, they kind of like bait and switched and made it that the researchers killed her, when up until this point we were led to believe that it was the people that she was protesting against.
Yeah, but
were the
being led to
mining.
believe something and then having it pulled out, I'm okay with that as long as it makes sense. As long as I can say, "Oh, I should have saw that coming." But I feel like in this one,
But it didn't make sense. That's the thing.
exactly, it made no sense. I mean, so the reason the scientists' research was being advanced by the pollution in the water. So they were allowing the water in the town to get polluted. That's why they were having all these stillborns and all these people dying. The scientists were allowing that to happen in order to advance their research, which is fine. That's great. I mean, kind of. There's other ways to you know, get what you need out of permafrost. But just the way it was tied up, the murder, then the cleaning ladies with the guns, like, to me, it kind of fell apart there. They just didn't.
It's
tie
a
it up.
lot to have packed into 6 episodes, I believe. But I thought
Yeah.
the
It could have used an extra episode or two, honestly.
Or they just cut the fat with
Yeah.
all the flashbacks. Just cut.
I
some
don't
of
think
that
I would have
stuff out.
survived another 2 or 3 episodes. But I think what got me into it is the dynamic of the character Hank, Liz, and then we realized that Peter, that they were a family dynamic, and then that just died off. Right from like,
No, they weren't a family.
well, there was a family dynamic there that they were constantly making comments about each other.
Yeah,
Oh, I
Yeah.
see.
bickering, going back
Yeah.
and forth at each other, holding grudges
Yeah.
against each other.
Yeah,
And then that
yeah.
just, like, they sidelined that really quickly when this other, you know, when, what's her name, Evangeline just came in. And then her and Liz just like became buddies to like, let's solve this case and let's sideline the whole storyline of the main characters from the first episode and a half.
I mean, yeah, those two are the main characters, Scott. Hank is
I
not a
know.
main character. I think Hank is a
Yes.
good character, and he, you know, he maneuvers in and out, and I think he makes sense in that role, ultimately betraying them. And I think his son is actually one of the best characters in the show, just because he has probably the only character in the show with a moral compass. So, yeah, I think just in general, I was disappointed overall with the series. I don't have a huge gripe with the intention that Issa Lopez wanted to, you know, however she wanted to make the show. I thought that was fine. I thought it was entertaining. I just felt the end kind of fell flat. It never really hit a high. I think, Pedro, to your point, the penultimate episode was really good. And also I liked the second episode when the investigation got going.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It was a gradual decline. Were you the one that mentioned that you read somewhere that the show's original director, producer was like upset at this?
Yeah, Nick Pizzolatto or something. So he's the original writer of season 1, 2, and 3. And yeah, he started going on his Instagram and kind of bad-mouthing the show. He's not involved with this season. He's still on at credit as an executive producer, but he's not involved in anything regarding the show. So he started bad-mouthing the show online, which started like, you know, I think
The show or the season?
the season.
This season.
He thought, you know, he mocked them tying the season to season 1.
Okay.
He started amplifying fan voices that hated the show and just, you know, really negative stuff. And it just created like this cloud over the show a little bit, especially towards the end. I didn't really like that. I think professionally speaking, you just shut up, let somebody work. And then if you have an opinion, you can certainly speak your mind, but then to amplify people and to create this like culture of like people who believe or who are with him versus people who are fans of the show. And I think also people forget that he wrote season 2, which was complete garbage and everybody hated it, but it did not get any flack. I mean, it did, especially in the press, but there was no huge fan reaction because he benefited from the fact that people weren't as online back then.
I was just going to say it was a different time that people were still talking at a physical water cooler about shows. They weren't going to the virtual online water cooler as they are now.
Yeah, except nobody was talking about season 2 because nobody was watching
Yes.
it. But I think, like, to stop beating around the bush, basically anyone watching who was like, I don't want shows about women or indigenous people or where the white guy is the bad guy, those voices were amplified by this guy, Nick Pizzolatto, and it became like almost like right wing versus left wing. And it's just like, dude, let's just enjoy the show. Or if you don't like it, just don't watch it. But like, you don't need to create all this ridiculousness. You don't need to politicize everything.
Yeah, please don't.
Yeah.
Please don't. On
Real quick,
that note,
just a nice little look. I didn't love the show either, but as a nice slam dunk for Issa Lopez, who's the creator and the writer. Highest rated finale, highest rated season for the show. It got renewed for season 5, and they're bringing her back. That's not to say,
That's great.
They can change the setting or brand new characters, I'm sure, but HBO's bringing it back.
And how do they
great.
rate it? Is that based on people watching on HBO or people watching on Max? Because I think all of us watched.
I just know
all
it's
of
the
us
highest.
watched it on Max. We didn't actually watch it on HBO Live.
That's great, because I don't think anyone can complain about the direction, the show itself, or any of the content. Just the way things were tied up at the very end is, I think, where most people are disappointed.
Yeah, it just didn't really hit the spot.
Everything else was good. Everything else was great. But you know what? It's a common trend nowadays where you just, season finales or series finales are just disappointing nowadays. It's a common trend. It's nothing specific to this show or to the writers or producers of this show. It happens all the time. Ever since Game of Thrones, dropped the stinker, it's very commonplace. It's hard to get like a well finished off series, like the lone exception being like Better Call Saul or something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's not easy to make great television.
yeah, and they've just been on a bad roll of doing bad finales. But main movie we all watched this week, Blackberry. I know when I mentioned it, I think, Bruno, you had a second guess about whether you wanted to watch this or not, because it's
We
kinda
had
sounded
discussed this movie
ridiculous or
back.
something.
We discussed this movie a while back. I immediately dismissed it, and I think I was gonna had posed this question for the end of the segment, but I'll bring it up now. I dismissed it because I was kind of fed up with these types of biopics where it's like, let's focus on like a specific year or a specific trend or a specific topic. This movie reminded me very much of Tetris that we watched last year. It's almost the same.
Yeah.
I think this was better than Tetris. I like this movie. I ended up, I'll let you finish your thought, but to summarize, I enjoyed this movie.
Nah, I mean that was my thought. My thought was to throw it to you to see what your thoughts were from initial mentioning of this movie and trailer to actually watching it. Because I've spoken to a few people that have watched it and everyone's really liked it. So
I was pretty dismissive. And I think I mentioned it earlier that I watched it in 2 parts, and the reason for that is because I just threw it on when I was like doing something. I was trying to do something on my computer, and I just threw it on, and I was basically gonna gauge, okay, if this holds my attention, I'll watch it. If it doesn't, I'll skip it. And it held my attention immediately, so I ended up pausing the movie and saving it for the next night. But I didn't expect it to be as funny as it was. It's laugh out loud funny, just because the characters are so, like, sometimes like cartoon versions of themselves, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I thought the characters were kind of one-dimensional. Let me see if I can pull up the cast.
Do you guys think this movie is rightly tagged comedy?
No, I wouldn't say so completely. There were moments I thought were funny, but I wouldn't say it was a comedy.
Yeah, I didn't think it was a comedy either, but it's labeled as a comedy on Hulu or wherever it's streaming. And that was one of the reasons I asked my wife if she wanted to sit down and watch this movie, and she said, "No, I'm not in the mood for a comedy."
Well, that's it. That's
So
it.
I watched it by
That's
myself.
it. Watching it by yourself.
And I mean, this did not hit me as a comedy at all. Like there were some, there were some funny bits to it, but I don't understand why it was labeled a comedy. If anything, this is more closely related to like the Jobs movie or something from a few years back, where whatever.
I love the reference. I love the past references of the movie. How you would see people using a stylus, and then it's what you were saying, Bruno. That it felt like it was. I think it was good you watched it in two parts because it felt like when the iPhone was announced. Oh, excuse me. When iPhone was announced, that felt like a whole nother part because the amount of them going up and up and up is. They were in their prime. All of a sudden, iPhone was announced by Steve Jobs, and it's like, okay, we're just going to continue doing the same thing we were doing. Nothing's changing.
Yeah, I think the movie was kind of broken into 3 chapters, if I remember correctly. So there was the first chapter where they meet. I'm trying to find a casting. They basically meet Glenn Horton's character, who's the bald guy. And then they go to market and they strike the deal with AT&T. And then like chapter 2, it cuts to I think 2003, and that focused more on growth, stability in the market, stability in the network in particular. And then the last chapter was 2007, dealing with the iPhone announcement and how AT&T was ultimately pulling the plug. And Mike had a bit of a mental collapse and a irrational response to that by allowing manufacturing to move over to China for the Blackberry Storm, which was ultimately a huge failure as a product.
I wonder how much Storms are going for on eBay right now. I want to test one out. That was their only, or according to the movie, that was their only phone with a screen, right?
A
With
touch
a touch
screen.
screen?
Without the keypad.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
That was the last straw for them. They released that, and the manufacturing was so poor that they had to. I think I read that they had to like refund or replace like so many of them. So I can't see them. I can't see that they even released anything else after that. So I'm assuming that was their last one.
Yeah, that was probably their last one. I mean, they don't exist anymore. This movie is their last remaining memory, and last time we'll probably.
But I looked up. BlackBerry still exists.
Did you
BlackBerry,
guys-
the company, still exists, but not in the same form.
They do still exist. Yeah,
What do they do?
they're a cybersecurity company now.
Oh, damn.
They do software. They're actually pretty big. But yeah, on the phone hardware side, that was their last straw.
Okay. All right, so
Did
but
you guys by any chance own a BlackBerry?
I never did. I never had the privilege.
You never did?
No,
You seem like the type of person, Bruno, that would definitely own
I was broke, son.
My
BlackBerry.
first
Money for that.
smartphone.
I had a Sprint flip phone.
I didn't need one. I didn't need a smartphone. My first smartphone was an iPhone.
I didn't need.
Well, I didn't. I
this
didn't. I was not into texting really up until eventually in 2007 when I got the iPhone.
What was your phone before an iPhone? Just like a regular flip phone from like Sprint?
I was AT&T all the way and still AT&T. I just bounced around from Singular and
Didn't you guys just have an outage recently?
I was not affected. I had that AT&T Wi-Fi.
They issuing everybody $5.
The AT&T Wi-Fi calling. It was the SOS that came up on the screen when cellular connections.
I did own a BlackBerry. I didn't own the like
Which
super
one?
business professional like big ones that were really popular, like those Palm Pilot size ones. I didn't own that. I owned like the smaller, more like consumer level one. It was just like a small like brick version, like the Nokia one. Remember those?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
released like a small like consumer oriented
And then there was the
phone.
then there
That
was
phone
the
was
Palm
great.
Pilot, but that wasn't a phone. That was just an organizer.
Nobody had that. That was ass.
Yeah, that was nobody.
That's why I was saying there was.
I do
but-
remember Blackberry Bold.
Yes.
So they mentioned the Bold as a big release late, and they kind of make fun of it because it just has like the little scroll thing. But the Bold was actually a really nice phone.
Yeah, that was like their last really good phone. That they had the trackpad,
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
the little
Click wheel
trackpad.
thing.
Yeah, they minimized it in the film, but it was actually, I know a lot of people that had that.
Yeah,
It was pretty.
I think I
badass.
had the version before that. But yeah, I thought this movie was good, man. Like you, Bruno, I threw it on thinking like, let me see if this is something I'm gonna stick with or not. And I think that's how a lot of people probably got into this movie. And after it has a good start to it, a good pace, good build up, the stylization of it, and of course, the retro '90s touch to it is definitely going to keep people interested. It did me, and
Yeah. Speaking of
I
that,
I thought it. I thought they. My only gripe with the movie was that when they moved towards like 2003, you didn't get a very good sense of transition between time because it looked the same as it did like back when the movie started in like 93, 96.
yeah,
And you got this guy still wearing like a headband, still
yep.
wearing like did this guy really like
So
nothing changed except this guy
what
what's his name's
changed?
hair his hair got more
The
good.
fashion sense didn't
What
change.
changed was they opened the scene with, man, what is the guy's name? The guy who wanted to buy the penguins. I gotta get his name. The character, was it Larry?
No, you're talking about Glenn Howerton's character?
Yeah. What's his name?
That was Jim
Jim.
Balsillie.
Okay. Yeah. Jim Balsillie. Balsillie. When it cuts to '03, it opens with a Strokes song, and I'm like, wait, we're not. I realized that, and it's Balsillie pulling up in the BMW, and I'm like, is he playing the Strokes? And then because if it's either like coming from the car or it's just like an overall soundtrack, but when he turns off the engine, the song stops. I was like, damn, Paul Seeley playing the Strokes. But that's when I was like, okay, we're in the 2000s now because that album had just come out. But
Yeah,
visually,
I
it
thought
looked the same.
I thought they could have switched up the stylization a bit to show the different era.
Because they did
that
for the
was kind
2007. That looked like higher definition.
I didn't even catch that, honestly. I thought each part of the movie, different points in time could have used a different stylization to just show, to break it up a bit. But how old was this guy Mike, bro? Because back when everything started in the 90s, this guy had like gray hair, but he's supposed to be like a college dropout.
Yeah, I don't know what the gray hair situation is. It feels like it looks like a bad wig. I don't know if it's a wig. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's just one of those guys who grays early. He didn't look bad. You just couldn't tell how old he was. But he was. I found a little frustration in how like cowardly and squirmy he was, where it's like he couldn't even put two words together sometimes. I thought that was a little bit of a wild exaggeration, almost like he had like some kind of mental deficiency, but which I'm sure is not true of the person. I did like how this thing was shot. It felt like The Office in many ways, where the camera was outside the room where the conversation was actually happening. And you had the framing was often really good. It was kind of like glass in between, or like the edge of a door on the edge of the frame.
I did like that.
Really
I did
cool.
like that.
And like these nice close-ups and like constant camera movement adjusting, following sort of the actors' reactions. And it had like a nice color palette and film grain to it that visually it just really appealed to me in the first two sections. So I thought that was a nice touch. A nice touch to make it look different from other things.
They projected this organized chaos of somehow these guys were able to create this product, which with this idea, they found the solution, the key to the solution to create a smartphone, and that it wasn't so structured. Somehow they were able to do what they were doing and perfect it at a certain level, and showing them outside of rooms really allowed you to see that.
Yeah,
I like that, Scott. Organized. What'd you say?
Organized
confusion?
chaos.
They were.
There you go.
I like the scene.
They were
Yeah,
able,
finish it up.
but I love the moments where it's like, oh, we need it. We need a month. Like, no, no, no. You're gonna work on this now. They're like,
Yeah, he was great in that role. He was always in a
yes.
bad mood. Always.
Stop
Always.
acting like children. Always get adults to come
I
in.
like the scene where he's with AT&T and they bring in the prototype, and the guy, the CEO, is he's like holding it, typing it with his index finger, and he's like, "No, try with your thumbs." And like, it's a pretty revolutionary moment, because I think we all unconsciously started typing with our thumbs, but to see it sort of being instructed and seeing it on screen is I don't know, I thought it was pretty cool. The only thing I was like raising an eyebrow toward was the whole thing with Jim buying the hockey teams, and that came out of nowhere,
Yes.
and then it led to nothing at the same time. But they didn't really give you any sort of hint at what was going on. So I thought that was the only part that was kind of strange, and it exists on an island.
Well,
by itself.
they labeled him as like a big hockey fan from the beginning.
Yep.
But
I get
he was
that.
I guess he was doing this behind their backs and kind of just added a little bit of a worminess to his character
Yeah.
because he was all in on what. Maybe he wasn't all in on this. He said he left his job in order to work with them, but in reality, he actually got fired, and that's why he went to work with these guys
Right.
in the first place.
Well, it's certainly.
So yeah, he was just sneaky and doing stuff behind their back and just trying to use whatever money he was making at that time off Blackberry to follow his passion, which was actually owning a hockey team.
Yeah, which is not even a bad thing. Like, you got money to buy a hockey team? Like, that's great. So I didn't really understand that. He was also dodging the SEC that whole time, which, that was a nice thread that led to a nice ending scene at the end. I liked it.
So I have pulled up on eBay right now. There's some Blackberry Bolds going anywhere from $20 to $80, all in good.
But what are you gonna do it when you get it? What are you gonna do with it? You can't use it. What are you
I
gonna
have
do
no
with it?
idea. I'm just saying.
That's just a
if
collector's
somebody,
item, Scott.
if people were feeling nostalgic after this, like I was, and you got like $30 to throw down the drain, you can.
You could experience that famous BlackBerry click sound.
Exactly. That
You
thing
need the
felt
click.
good though.
You know
Can't
what?
lie. Well, you guys didn't. You guys didn't have it, so I don't know. That
I
thing felt
saw
good, but
other people.
It's
I
like
saw other people. I hated. I saw other people do it. I hated the click.
Oh, God.
it's like the home button on a.
But that's a
iPhone.
feel. It's not a. That's a very
satisfying.
well. Now that we don't have the home button anymore, that satisfaction is gone. If you have a current model.
So, I guess now we just have to wait for the Sidekick movie. And when
See
that
that?
drops.
See that would be
I
well. That's a
had those too.
dangerous story because didn't people's eyes get poked out when people used to fling the phones?
I don't know.
I don't remember that, but I had a Sidekick, and those were amazing too.
Yeah, those
Wasn't
were
the whole thing?
around the same time.
Wasn't
as
the whole
this.
thing with the Sidekick that you would fling it and it would open, and then you would fling it and it would close?
No, you could. I mean, you could
just- it's
maneuver
like a
it and
thumb.
flick it with
Yes.
one
Yeah,
hand,
just
but
flick it.
it never flew out that much. It was just like
Well, what about the
it's all-
what about the Motorola? The whole time the Motorola Razr was out, that was the whole fancy thing that you had to spend $100 beyond or $200 beyond the free phone that you can get. You get the Razr.
That one I had. I had the Razr.
I had a Razor too. They still make Razors. I almost bought one recently too when I thought about switching over to Android.
The fancier phones are the ones that were the flip phones. I always had the long Nokia pill, where it was just no flip. It had all the buttons that were spongy, and
Yeah.
you had the fancy thing was that you had the 3 games that every Nokia phone had.
Yeah, one being Snake.
Yes. And then I think LG was one of the first companies that came out with a phone with a color screen.
That makes me think. Obviously, the movie hinted at that the final nail in the coffin was the iPhone coming out for this, although there were other issues like the SEC and everything. But, seeing how other phone lines now, like LG and Samsung, have found success along with the iPhone dominating the industry, it's like what makes me think like, why couldn't BlackBerry just, stick to making just touchscreen phones and just being like the competitor to it, or one of the competitors to it, because it's a saturated market. There's tons of other phones. There's like the OnePlus, the Oppos, and all these
Yeah.
other phones. But I think one thing they failed to mention is Google's Android operating system software was also a big killer for them, because that just opened it up. That was like open source. That just opened it up to a lot of these other companies coming into the game and stuff. So it wasn't just Apple, but I feel like, if they had the right funding and money, they could have probably remained or came back as a competitor. Because Motorola died out for a few, and they came back.
But the moment the smartphone came out, Apple is the only company that has their own devices, and they create the operating system. All of the phone makers right now,
until the Pixel,
all the
until the
phone
Pixel
makers
came
right
out.
now, all the companies, they just make the physical device, and they rely on Android for the operating system. Blackberry was doing both. They had the operating system
Yeah.
and the device, but based on the way the movie portrayed the story, that they were too into their ways, thinking we are superior to Apple. Whatever they're coming out with is not going to catch on, and they stayed in the lane. They thought their product was what was going to be the prime ask of consumers, but they later realized them, trying to reduce manufacturing cost and not changing and adapting, bit them in the end.
Yeah, you gotta adapt to where the industry's going, which ties back to Sora AI and the industry adapting. We're gonna leave it on that note. Thanks again. See you guys later. Keep it
Later.